Welcome to another episode of Through the Chair, a one-on-one conversation with the committee chairpersons that make up the 35th Legislature Committee structure. Joining us today is no other than Senator Marise C. James, who is the chair of the Committee on Education and Workforce Development. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
You too.
So let's start. Who are some of the members of the Committee on Education and Workforce Development?
The other members are beginning with, of course, the vice chair, the Senator Donna Fred Gregory, and then Senator Dwayne DeGraff, Senator Carla Joseph, Senator Diane Capehart, Senator Franklin Johnson, and Senator Javan James.
Okay, that's a diverse set of senators.
It is.
This should be interesting.
It will.
Definitely. So let's talk about your committee responsibilities. So what's some of the things the committee will be responsible for moving forward in the 35th legislature?
Well, the committee is responsible for everything education, you know, from when we're children to adults, really, which captures, of course, the Department of Education and the Department of Labor, because they're workforce development. But it all begins with our children. So the focus is the children of the Virgin Islands, making sure that they're ready to enter the workforce. And the committee will be dealing with any bills related to teachers, of course, children in elementary. Well, we should really start with pre-K, pre-K all the way to college, because it will address even the University of the Virgin Islands, and then of course alternative education with respect to workforce development. That has to do a lot with the training, the labor issues that would arise with our workforce, anything that has to do with that. So it really captures us from us as people, from the time we're children all the way to when we are ready for our careers, regardless of whether it's college or trade or even the military. Any of those areas where we then function as adults in our society. And
times are changing right now. We're in a different time. So everything has to change. The way we teach our kids, the way they conversate about them. We have social media. So that's very important as I see it. Is. So share your thoughts about how the legislature has a structure about education and workforce development. And so we have like different committees that deal with different things. So share your thoughts about how the legislature actually gets the Committee of Education to hold that responsibility.
Well, you mean in terms of what we're going to be doing as a body? As a body.
Right. And then,
well, of course, any bills that come before us that deal with any of the matters that touch on education or workforce development, we will be handling. You know, we'll be looking forward to. I will, as the chairman of the committee, really be focusing on how are we going to increase the scores of our children. I think that's perhaps the one thing that has come out during the election and since the pandemic. You know, we keep hearing those buzzwords, learning loss. Of course, at the same time, too, we're actually now, and the legislature definitely has oversight over what's going to be happening with the building of the schools. And the Office of Disaster Recovery will touch on that because, of course, they are responsible for the federal funds coming in. But at the end of the day, the Education Committee needs to make sure that the buildings are conducive for learning, that our children are protected, our teachers are also in a place where learning can occur. Workforce development, you know, we'll be focusing on one of the big issues really now, I think that was touched upon by the governor in his State of the Territory, was the fact that we don't have the workforce, the number of people. So I'm looking forward in the next few months, really, because construction is going to begin, for example, on Arthur Richards. So I'm looking forward to seeing how are we going to meet the needs of construction, in terms of the number of people on the island. The governor said he needs like 5,000 more people. Well, I'm hoping that the Department of Labor specifically is coming up with solutions, because that's why we're elected.
Right.
To solve the problems.
Right.
And that seems to be now one of the major issues that we're going to be facing in the next few months, really.
Right, and that was one of my next questions. What will your plans be in the next 100 days? Because some of this is critical.
It is, yeah.
We know that we have the money, but then we need people to work.
Right. The next 100 days, well, I've already begun.
Okay.
For example, I was part of the panel that was sitting listening to the principals present the status of their schools to the Commissioner of Education. She'll be sworn in soon, so I'll take the liberty and say the Commissioner, right? But she invited me, Commissioner Deanne Wells Hedrington, to sit in on the principal presentation. So all last week, I spent listening to all the principals and St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, and I was really heartened by the quality of the principals who presented.
Right.
We don't have, or I should say, speaking for myself, I don't think we have any need to be concerned about the quality of the principals that we have.
Right.
Just from their presentations, of course, right? That's what I'm listening to. We do have issues with certification of teachers. We need to encourage more teachers to become certified. You know, someone once said that if you want to look at if you want to determine the quality of your education, look at the quality of your teachers.
Right.
Okay. So, right. And so the focus was on the English proficiency and math proficiency of our students. They're not good. And one of the things we need to do in the VI is accept the fact that we do have a problem and that it needs to be solved. And so I'm looking at creative ways for us to improve the reading scores, the math scores of our children. So I did that for last week into the beginning of this week. I'm going to eventually meet with each school individually, take a tour, maybe as part of a group or maybe individually. I haven't decided on that yet. I need to meet with the committee members, of course, to find out from them exactly
what their thoughts are. Right?
Yeah, exactly, and get their input.
Right.
A few of them participated, and Senator Diane Capehart, Senator Franklin Johnson, they both came to, and Senator Javan James, he was off island, but he sent a representative. And of course, Senator Gittins joined us one day. Senator Gittins seemed to like coming in and in my staff, you know, I need to talk to him about that. But I was happy that he came, you know, because he added, you know, Senator Gittins added the perspective of a police officer.
Definitely. I was just about to say that.
And his focus was clearly on the security and the safety.
Right. That's why we need other minds to.
It's important that they come. Because for me, as a former teacher, my focus is really in the classroom. And what's going on in the classroom.
But there's so much other elements that has to do with it, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's the beauty of having all these different people in the Senate that people don't sometimes realize. You need different perspectives. You know, I bring not only the fact that I was a teacher, and I still consider myself a teacher, but I'm an attorney. And so for me, I'm looking at the purpose of the legislature is to create legislation. And as an attorney, I bring that to the Senate without having needed to be sitting in the Senate, because as a practicing attorney, I know how important laws are.
Definitely.
You know, and the consequences of making sure you have good legislation and legislation that's understandable to the society we live in, to the citizens, you know. So, and then Franklin Johnson, he was focused also on security and safety. You know, so it was good. It was good because, like I just said, you know, they bring a perspective. And that went well. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the commissioner sworn in. But I think she's hit the ground running. I also participated in the CZM hearing that was held a few days ago. Samuel Carrion was also in that particular hearing, and it was for Arthur Richards School. And that's going to break ground in February. I'm happy about that.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Is supposed to be finished by 2025.
Okay.
So that's important.
Right.
But while the schools are building, our children still need to learn.
Right. They gotta find some place to learn. Right. I'm telling you.
And so that's been my focus.
Okay, so I know you mentioned a lot about education. Let's talk more about workforce development and Department of Labor, which would be in charge of that. So what conversations do you have with Department of Labor so far?
Well, actually, you know what's great about the Department of Labor, the Commissioner of the Department of Labor, who I'm glad you brought him up. He participated in the presentations, some of them for education. It makes sense.
Right, it does make sense.
You know, but also because of his background, if you think about it, he was also an educator and a principal or superintendent. He went through. So he also brings both of those. And again, the issues with him would be people taking advantage of the programs that he has in his department, letting the public know what's available. He also will play a big part in the workforce problem or issue. How are we going to solve that? And also what laws we would have to follow if we're bringing in people from, let's say, another country. Right. And
I think we did. Have we done that before? We have done that before.
I think we have. That's one of the other things that I've been doing since coming into the Senate is doing a lot of research on how did we solve these issues before? You know, like for example, the night of the State of the Territory address, remember the governor honored the 2 teachers. And one of the teachers was from the Philippines. So clearly there's a program in place to bring teachers from the Philippines in international teachers. So we need to think about bringing international workers in terms of construction,
everything.
So I think that that's where the Commissioner of Labor plays a pivotal role, you know, in advising us as senators how he will solve that problem or assist the governor in solving that problem, because that's an executive branch issue. But we come into it, of course, when it comes to rules and regs and laws dealing with these people who will be coming in, as well as the workers we have. You know, so the statute, or I should say the committee is also tasked with looking at other issues in labor. You know, like unemployment, the collective bargaining agreements, retirement, those issues. So. I'll eventually get to those.
Well, you hit the ground running, so we're good. So what are some of the other plans? You see, how are you going to plan to carry out some of these meetings? And it sounds like it's a lot already. It sounds like it's a real lot.
Actually, it turned out to be a lot more than I anticipated at the very beginning, but it makes sense.
Yes, it does.
I'm also getting emails from constituents that are inquiring about different issues in education, like the agriculture curriculum, and I welcome those. My only concern sometimes is that I may not be as responsive as I want to be, but I'm only human, So I have to get used to that. I have to get used to that. Like you said, I hit it running, and I am running. So there are a lot of other issues that, for example, I actually ran on a platform of housing and health. And I'm the vice chair of the Committee on Housing. That's chaired by Senator Blyden, Marvin Blyden. So I'm going to get involved in that too. And then I'm also a veteran, and so I attended a meeting that was held this past week, and this is all in the month of January, right? And that we just had, dealing with veterans issues. You know, and they're dear to my heart, so I intend to definitely stay focused.
They deserve the veterans for a reason, so they deserve it. All the attention that they could possibly get. That's as much as the children that we do and we talk about. So what about the long-term plans as a senator, or long-term plans for the Committee on Education?
Well, I'm hoping that we pass meaningful legislation that will correct some of the problems that I'm beginning to hear from constituents, from teachers, from principals, from the Board of Education.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to forget too that the Board of Education was also part of, they attended the presentations, and again too,
Vital role.
right,
Vital role.
they also provided a perspective that I found enlightening to me.
Right.
You know, and then there's a technical board that I eventually hope to meet with. So my plans really are for the committee, we learn as much as we can about the status of education. We, you know, from holding meetings and inviting the stakeholders. We also pass meaningful legislation that will address some of the problems that are existing now in our community.
Right.
And that hopefully by the end of the 2 years, the first 2 years that the people have given me the opportunity to serve them, they will see a difference in education.
Good.
You know, because there's just so much.
Right. It's a big department, right?
Yes.
And so much ground to cover.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
So does this, as your role as committee chair, does this hamper your other roles as being a senator though? Because this, like I say, it's a big committee, big education, but then you're still a part of other committees as well.
Does it hamper it? No. Well, it interferes with it a little bit. I agree with from that viewpoint, but I have an excellent staff. You know,
right.
I was fortunate to have people who were in the Senate. You know, Mrs. Glory V. Christian Krieger, Miss Diafra Payne. So they have been guiding me.
Yes.
You know, in the process. And then I have two new employees, Mr. Joel Mercado and Miss Juanita Phillip, and they bring that outside perspective, never been in before, but have a lot of questions like I do.
Yes,
and so I'll find a way to manage it. You know, I have to, one of my advisors said to me, you need to pace yourself, Marise. You're moving a little too fast, you know? So I have to learn to do that. Yeah, and get ready for, I mean, think about it. If there's a hearing on veterans in the territory, I'm going to attend.
Right.
So I need to prepare for that.
Right.
I need to look at that legislation.
Right.
I think that's where I have an advantage over all the other senators. They may call me new, right? But I consider myself like Michael Jordan and LeBron James. When from the time they were rookies, they were making a difference.
That's right.
Right? Okay, so I look at myself that way. Yes. And part of that is because you bring skills that you had from before.
Right.
And so I intend to bring my experience, my knowledge, you know, my training, my skills as an attorney to the legislature, and I really look forward to. So far, I've been really, I guess the word would be pleased with the environment that I've met, the people, the central staff on both islands.
Yes.
You know, you begin to see the workings of the legislature.
How it works, right?
And
from behind the scenes.
And people don't realize how important all these other people are to making this branch of government work. So I feel good about the people I'm working with in terms of the central staff. I still have to meet the staff of the individual senators, but the central staff, I've been already exposed to them.
Good.
And I feel pretty good about them helping me become a better senator.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And that's what we're here for. We want to make sure that you get the best treatment you could possibly get, so you could go out and do the best job you could do to the people of the Virgin Islands.
Exactly.
Is there anything else that you would like to touch on before we wrap this up?
No, not really. I mean, I'm excited about my new role. You know, it's never too late to do something new. Right. Never too late. And so I'm really looking forward to making a difference here in the legislature. And I look forward to working with everyone who's a part of this institution. Senator, thank you for joining us on Legit TV for Through the Chair. It has been a pleasure having a conversation with you. Thank you. All the best. Thank you. I appreciate it.